If you ever wanted to make your own beer at home but thought it was too complicated, too expensive, or took way too long, this video might just change your mind. Today I'm going to show you how to brew a delicious toasted marshmallow milk stout right at home using our 1-gallon beer making kit. You don't need any fancy equipment or any previous brewing experience. In just a few easy steps, you'll have your own handcrafted beer that tastes like something straight out of a brewery. And stick around because later I'll show you a super simple fermentation hack that can save you from creating a huge mess. Something I recently learned the hard way. Let's take a look at what comes in the kit. When you open the box, you'll see all of the ingredients and equipment packed nicely. You'll get a 1¼ gallon fermenter, a bag of items that need to be assembled, plus a stick-on thermometer so you can keep an eye on your fermentation temperature, and a sticker, a hydrometer and test tube for checking gravity, 3 feet of hose, a bottle filler with a dual action spring, and of course the heart of it all, our marshmallow milk stout recipe kit, which includes dark dry malt extract, steeping grains, lactose, hops, yeast, carbonation tablets, a Campton tablet, and mini marshmallows that give the final beer that sweet toasty flavor. You'll also need a few things from your kitchen, like a stock pot about 2 gallons in size, a kitchen scale for measuring hops, and a thermometer. To keep things simple, I'm just using an electric cooktop. I'll be bottling this beer once it's done, so I recommend our beverage bottling kit as the perfect add-on. It includes 12 12-ounce bottles, a capper, caps, and a bottling wand with tubing. That's everything you need to make professional-looking bottles of your own homemade beer, start to finish. Before we start brewing, there's one quick prep step that can make or break your first batch, and it's one that a lot of new brewers skip. You should thoroughly clean and sanitize all of your equipment using PBW and Star Sand before getting started. To clean, fill your fermenter with water and add the recommended amount of PBW. I like to run the cleaner through the spigot as well, then pour the liquid into a bowl to clean any smaller pieces of equipment. Once everything's been cleaned, dump out the liquid and rinse everything well with water. Next, it's time to sanitize, so fill the fermenter again with water, add in the recommended amount of Star Sand, and give it a good shake. Pour the remaining sanitizer into a bowl and use it to sanitize the rest of your equipment. Star Sand is a food-grade no-rinse solution, so you don't need to worry about any leftover foam. Now let's get into the brewing process. Fill your pot with 1.5 gallons of water and heat it up to 160 degrees Fahrenheit and add in 1/20 of the included Campton tablet. Once the water reaches 160 degrees, steep your specialty grains that come in the included mesh bag for 30 minutes. Think of this like adding a tea bag to a mug of hot water while making tea. It's also a good idea to clip the bag on the side of the pot so it's easy to remove. After the 30-minute steep, remove the grain bag and stir in the 1 pound of dark dry malt extract. Stir until the extract is fully dissolved, making sure it's completely incorporated and nothing is stuck to the bottom of the pot. Once it's fully dissolved, bring the liquid to a boil, making sure to stir every so often as dry malt likes to foam up and you do not want a boil over. Once the boil officially starts, set a 30-minute timer and add in 1/2 of the package of Styrian Golding's hops. This is called a 60-minute hop addition. When there's 15 minutes remaining in the boil, add in the rest of the packet of hops for the 15-minute hop addition. So while everything's boiling, I'm going to show you how to toast the marshmallows just right. Add the entire pack of marshmallows to a cookie sheet and place it in the oven on the middle shelf, set to broil for 1 to 3 minutes or until golden brown. When the 30-minute timer goes off, cut the heat and add in the 1/4 pound bag of lactose and the toasted marshmallows. Again, stir everything until it's fully dissolved. Then you're going to want to cool your wort down to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit. An ice bath in the sink works perfectly, but if you don't have enough ice like me, just place it in your fridge and check the temp until it hits 70 degrees. Once it's chilled, transfer the wort to the fermenter, trying to leave behind the trube or pile of leftover sediment. If short on volume, add water to the fermenter to reach the 1¼ gallon mark. This will allow for a full 1 gallon of finished beer. Shake the fermenter to aerate the wort, then pitch 1/2 of the packet of US 05 yeast into the fermenter. Fill the airlock halfway with Star Sand and place the airlock onto the lid. Then just set the fermenter in a dark location between 67 and 74 degrees, but don't worry too much if the temperature is a few degrees over or below. The beer will be just fine. Fermentation will take around 2 weeks, which leads me to my next point, which is a little brew hack that will help you avoid big messes during fermentation. A few days later when I came into work, I could tell that this was a healthy, happy fermentation, and based on my last brew day, that meant a potential blowout from high krausen. Krausen is the thick foamy layer of yeast and proteins that forms on top of the beer during fermentation, and when fermentation hits its peak, called high krausen, that foam can rise fast, and if there's not enough headspace, it'll push up through the airlock and make a huge mess. Your beer will be fine, but it's a very messy and annoying situation, and I did not want that gunk all over the office. So I added a blow-off tube, which helps prevent pressure buildup and messy blowouts by letting excess CO2 and foam escape safely during high krausen. All you gotta do is sanitize a hose in and out with Star Sand, take off the airlock and empty it, attach the hose to the airlock, then put it back on the lid. Place the open end end of the hose into a bowl of sanitizer, and as you can see, everything is escaping right through this tube, and I could rest easy the next week or so knowing that disaster has been avoided. Speaking of disaster, if you've never seen what happens when you bottle beer too early, trust me, you'll want to hear this next part. Before bottling, you always want to make sure fermentation is totally complete. If you bottle beer that isn't done fermenting, you run the very high risk of creating a huge mess because leftover sugar keeps fermenting, CO2 builds up, and the bottles can burst. As you can see, the bubbles have stopped bubbling in the bowl of Star San, which is a good sign that fermentation has stopped, but how we like to confirm fermentation is complete is by checking gravity, which is a measure of how much sugar is left in the beer. When you get 2 consecutive readings that don't change, you know it's done fermenting and ready to bottle. I had 2 of the same readings one day after the other, so I knew fermentation was complete. Like I said, I'm using our bottling kit to keep things quick and simple. I just filled a bucket with water and Star San so I could sanitize all of the bottles and equipment. This included siphon here is super easy to use. You just press down to let the beer start flowing, and lift up to stop. Place 1 carbonation tablet in each bottle. I set the fermenter high up, attached the siphon to the spigot, opened it up, and started filling the bottles. Capping is just as simple. Place the cap on the magnetic part of the capper, then press it onto the bottle. Repeat until all 12 bottles are capped, then store them in a dark room temperature spot for 2 to 3 weeks. After those 2 weeks passed, I put 1 bottle in the fridge as a tester to make sure that I liked the level of carbonation it was at. Sure enough, by the next day, it was perfectly chilled and I was super happy with the carbonation level. I gave it a final taste and I was genuinely really happy with how it turned out. It's sort of creamy, slightly sweet, a little boozy, and pairs perfectly with marshmallows. With the holidays coming up, a kit like this makes an awesome gift for family and friends who want to try something new and fun together, like brewing, or you could grab one for yourself and bring your own DIY beer to a holiday dinner.